Today's webinar is going to be brought to us by our one and only Charlotte Kemp. So Charlotte Kemp is a professional speaker and author. She is also a guide which accompanies her compass and her map, and she believes in conscious futurism, which is the way to peek over the horizon into the future and step towards that horizon with confidence and a plan, and hopefully a guide by your side.
I'm going to show you 3 slides, and I'd like you to let me know what you think I'm trying to communicate to you with these slides. There's an image on the left and there's an image on the right. So that's the first one. This is the second one. So we had a dancer, we've got a rock climber, and we've got a surfer. The pictures on the left, the dancer, she has finished her dance. She has performed incredibly and people are giving her awards and she's standing there collecting the awards. But what she's done has been the dance, and the dance has been a lot of effort and a lot of practice behind the scenes. This one is a rock climber. The person on the left has reached a height and they're celebrating. But the person on the left, the person on the right is the person who is climbing, who's actively doing it. And you have to be actively doing it. You can't just stop and decide you've done enough rock climbing for the day, because you're halfway, or for me, it'd be like, 1/10 of the way up a rock and I've given up. But you have to keep moving. The surfer, and none of these really resonate with me personally because I'm not an active person at all, but the surfer has to keep moving. You can't stop. You can't just say, oh, well, that was fun, but I'm done now. You have to continue before you can get home. The photograph on the left is brilliant because it's captured an absolute instant with the surfer and his surfboard. But that instant, the very next instant, he's falling down again into the water. But on the left, we look at those achievements. So Bruce just said to you that as of last night, I am now off the board of the Global Speakers Federation. While I was on the leadership team of the Global Speakers Federation, it's a 4-year term, I had to be involved in various projects. I represented the federation and the association members. I had to have so very many WhatsApp conversations, email conversations, and so many Zoom meetings that went on for far too long. I've been speaking to people all over the world. When I update my LinkedIn profile, it looks really impressive to say president-elect, president, immediate past president. And when people look at that, like, wow, you're in the middle of this amazing thing. As of today, I'm old news. It's being done. It's a line on my resume, on my LinkedIn profile, but it is in the past, and I am now stationary as far as anybody else is concerned. And in a couple of weeks' time, they're going to go, well, yeah, well done for that in the past, but like, what else have you done? What are you doing? You can't just rest on that. So that is what we're going to explore today. We always look at that moment when we get the awards, when we get the flowers, when we, somebody grabs that awesome photograph of us with, whatever is the achievement, the accolade. And we think that that is the moment. But that is an instant, a snapshot of our lives. And all of you who are speakers and experts and consultants and digging into your content and learning new skills and competencies and writing books and extending yourself, you're all moving constantly forward. You're developing and growing. And that is what we need to look at in terms of positioning. None of those people who won the accolades get it for just being in action. They do it because they're doing the right actions. Very often because they have a coach. Certainly the dancer, the surfer, there are people there that are teaching them and coaching them and correcting their technique so that they can be the absolute best. So when we look at what the world recognizes, we don't reward the best. We don't reward just in the moment. We reward people who are best positioned And we can only be best positioned if we actually take those actions to make that happen. So I'd like you to bear that in mind as we go through. And Tim, remind me later on so I can tell you what your prize is. So I love using analogies and metaphors to explain things. So I'm moving now from a metaphor saying, if you want to be best positioned, you have to keep moving and you have to do the right actions, and it's not a stationary thing. And I'm going to go straight into another metaphor that I like to use, which is the exact opposite, because now we're going to be talking about a building, a very stationary building. If you're looking at your career and you want to see it grow and develop, you have an ambition. You have an idea in mind of where you would like to be and how are you going to get there? What is that going to look like? You have to start with a good foundation. And the foundation is this, that you need to be good. I've dealt with many speakers over the years, either in casual conversation or when people have come and asked for some coaching or some guidance. And a couple of times, only a couple of times, I've had people say, I'm not being given a chance. What I say, distresses people or they don't like it. So they're suppressing my message. And I want to say with respect that there are too many people in the world for there to be an active campaign against you to suppress your message. If your message isn't out there, the very first thing you have to know is it good enough to get attention? And if you honestly, truly believe that your content is good and makes a difference, then we take that foundation of whatever it is you want to share or do or provide as a service, and we build on that. But first, be absolutely honest with yourself. Is your content, is your skill good enough? It's okay, absolutely okay, if it is not yet good enough. It is okay if you are a starter. It is okay if you are moving from one place to another and you're learning a new skill. You are absolutely welcome to be part of what we're doing in Voices into Africa and Red Jacket and anything else. You are welcome to be part of that as long as you are intending to grow and develop. If you are happy just being mediocre and wanting to get paid for it, then you're probably going to find a little bit of resistance in how you engage with us because we're expecting people to grow. And having said that, and I've got like all of these little kind of check boxes I want to make sure we say. Having said that, it is also okay not to be overly ambitious. Just because you are growing and developing and your content is becoming more meaningful, the value you bring to people is becoming more meaningful, it does not mean that you have to be hyper ambitious. It does not mean that you have to look at my career and say, well, Charlotte was president here and president there, and that's what I should do. Or these people are, traveling overseas and speaking at big conferences. That's what I should do. You don't have to do that. This is your career, your ambition, how you want to show up. And it does not have to be ambitious. It does not have to look like anybody else's. It just needs to be good and getting better. You have to really value the work that you do. And then you're going to find all of this makes a lot more sense. Okay. We got a really good foundation here. It's nice and solid. We need to build on that. And there are 4 pillars that we need to look at to create the structure that positions us correctly. So if you're trying to kind of marry this physical settled structure with all my movement, just imagine that we're going to be talking here about a building where somebody might want to dance and they can't dance here. They can't move and look gorgeous in their flow unless the building is safe for them to be on. So you guys can do the work. You're all very smart. All right. So we got a good foundation. What are we going to build? There are 4 pillars. The first one is perspective. And I think that there are 2 perspectives that we need to have. One is a global perspective, and the other is a perspective of time and the future. I am a futurist. I think that this is very important. We don't have to live in the future, but if we cannot think about and anticipate the future, then we are poorer today. When we do a good job about anticipating the future, it makes this moment that much more precious. So perspective is really important. And I used this picture the other day for another group of speakers. I should have given you a warning because it makes me feel a little bit nauseous and have a bit of vertigo when I look at it. But there's lots of these images online where we can zoom in and you see kind of like a tree, and then you get to see the branch and then the leaves and then the green part and then the cells, and then you can go all the way down to the little itty bitty things, and then you can zoom out again as well. Perspective is really important if you want to be positioned for success, for how you define success. It does not mean that you need to be an international speaker, but it means you need to know what is happening in the world in your vertical, your topic area. If you can only talk about your topic from your own experience, from what you've experienced in your city or your province, then you actually don't have enough insight and perspective to share with deep value to make a transformation in anybody else's life. So if something is important to you, you need to get the perspective of what else is out there. We'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, but I really encourage you to find ways to engage with other content, with other creators, with other people in your space, so that you can learn more about what it is that you're trying to share. If you have a target audience, people that you like to work with, then you need to explore what their world looks like, not just what happens in their company in Woodstock in Cape Town, but if it's a company in a particular sector, what is that sector looking like in other parts of the world? The more you understand that, the more value you can bring to your client in Woodstock. So that perspective is really important. And once you have a big picture, global and time perspective, then it gives you a little humility about your role in the world, but also you really get clarity on the value, the angle of what you can bring. None of us can solve every problem for our clients. None of us is an absolute expert in our field. In our field, we do not know everything. The world is far too complex and fast-paced to do that any longer. But that doesn't mean that you can abdicate knowing what is going on. You need to have that big picture. I never intend to give people serious homework. So I'm not expecting you to go and, get degrees and sign up for things and, but pay attention. Find ways that you can engage with content and ideas so that it expands your mind, and you can lean in and explore if you need to, and then step back again. You don't have to spend hours and hours doing this, but you just need to be aware. So don't put blinkers on. Thank you, Tim. That's really sweet. All right. So we have one pillar. What is the second pillar? The second pillar is communication. And I'm actually not going to spend time on this because the communication part of what we're looking at here, in my mind, settles on two areas. One is spoken communication and the other is written communication. Most of us here are speakers or are happy, right? We might be an expert somewhere else, but we're happy enough on a stage in front of an audience we can speak and communicate. We should be developing that skill. We should find ways to explore that. Written communication is also really important for your positioning because you could know everything. You could have the absolute best answers. People would be throwing money and underwear at you if they only could know what is in your brain. But if you don't tell them, then how do they know? So you need to be able to do that. And when you do written communication, you can leave something there so that while you are doing something else, somebody can engage with your content. Right before this meeting, and they may even be on the call with us here, but I'm not going to necessarily mention, hi, Chris, who they were. But I just want to mention there's two people, Chris and Louise. And Louise was talking about the book that I recently wrote, and she's referencing things in it. So while I'm doing other things, she's able to engage with that content. And that is how valuable written communication is. It doesn't mean that you have to write a book, but you have to be able to write something that is out there somewhere. And there's many ways to facilitate that, even if you don't feel naturally comfortable writing. We got AI solutions for almost anything these days. So there's a way to do it. And if you need some help, we can give you that guidance. But find a way to leave it. I like to think of it as increasing the surface area of your luck. So if you post something to LinkedIn, if you post something to TikTok, and then you're doing something else, and that communication is sitting there engaging with people on your behalf, you've increased the surface area of your luck, and more people will be able to engage with you and see what you're sharing and know the value that you have for them. So communication, very, very important. Let's move on to the third pillar, which is network. And I think networking is really incredibly important. I think when people talk about networking, they speak about it too simply, they kind of like off the cuff. This is, what it means to have a good network. Or they'll say those, your network is your net worth. There's some really tired cliches out there. I sat at a conference once when somebody was on the stage talking about networking. And I was sitting next to a woman who ran a particular business network. And as this woman on the stage is talking about, this is what you need to do, A, B, C, the woman sitting next to me was muttering, she's stolen my keynote. And I didn't say anything because I'm not going to be rude. I'll be rude now about them. But if somebody can steal your speech, your keynote, without ever having heard you speak, without knowing who you are, then they haven't stolen your content. It's just that the two of you are both talking at a very shallow level. You're talking about 101, the obvious things, the things that you need to do. So go online and just say, how do I build a network? Ask your favorite AI companion, how do I build a network? And you can find some of the obvious things. But I want to give you a couple of other ideas to think about, because obviously I'm going to start with LinkedIn because I think it's one of the best companions that we have, because your LinkedIn network gives you access and credibility around the world. You also need to connect within your sector. So we might be professional speakers, but we are futurists or mental health advocates or change management advocates or whatever. We all have our own sectors and our specialities. You need to be able to engage with those. You need to be part of associations, the speakers associations, your sector, your speciality, those associations. Get involved and meet and connect with other people. What else do we have here? Global. Create a global network of people doing similar things to you in different parts of the world. These people, us all here in this meeting, we're not competition with each other. We're not. There is enough work for all of us. And when we start to work together in better ways, we create opportunities that did not exist before. And we can only do that by co-creating, by collaborating, by sharing and growing. So I had a meeting with Janet earlier this morning, and Janet, I know what wisdom Janet has. She's giving me ideas. I'm hearing them. I've got 4 pages of notes and about, 14 hours of work to do just to unpack that 1-hour conversation we had, because I intentionally connect with and engage with people who can bring real value to my work. And there's a reciprocity. We share that with each other. So create these global networks in speaking, in your sector, your field. But the most important part of all of this networking is that you have to come with strategy and intention. Who are you specifically connecting with strategically on purpose? So not so that you can sell them your thing, your widget, your product, your book. It's not like, hi, this is me, please buy my book. It's like, hi, this is me. This is what I explore. This is what I love to do. And I think it could resonate with something that you do. And what does that look like? And then you start to unpack that, and then you find some amazing things. So I'm going to give you a little quick little overview here of something that you can do on LinkedIn that is very strategic in this direction. And if you want the infographic of that. If somebody can pop my email address into the chat box, I'd really appreciate that. Any one of them. But if you email me and say that you want this LinkedIn recommendations infographic, I'll send it to you. On this infographic, one of the things I talk about is getting recommendations. So I'm going to assume for most speakers, but if you're not specifically a speaker, just think about it in terms of this. If you are a speaker and you have ambitions to, for example, speak in India, and you want to do some work there, you would love to go and work in India. You don't just sit here and say, I wish I could work in India. You create a plan to build your reputation in a place where there's some resonance. So you want to connect with people on LinkedIn who are in India, speakers like yourself, so that you can have a chat with them and say, hey, I just love to come to your country. What do I need to know? And you can share something with them that they would get value of as well. But people are much more generous than we give them credit for. Look for opportunities to do webinars in India that you're giving away. They're showcase webinars so that you can showcase your skill and your talent there. Host your own webinars in your own time, your public webinars, and invite people from around the world and invite people from India. Invite potential clients who could, invite you back. Present your content and then ask for recommendations. Now, you want to do work in India, you want to be invited, maybe you want to speak at a conference. So you need to connect with people in India. You need to connect with speakers so that you can learn something. You need to connect with potential clients. You need to connect with audience members. You need to connect with event organizers who've had some experience of working with you. And once you've done good work for them, you ask them for a LinkedIn recommendation. And then when you're actually pitching for an opportunity for a paid engagement in India, and you put your proposal together, you can select from your recommendations on LinkedIn, and they're on LinkedIn because they can be validated. So it's a lot more valuable than your LinkedIn your recommendations on your website, okay? You can select, you can curate the recommendations that you have on your LinkedIn profile to say, here are recommendations from these people in India, from clients in your sector, but from other parts of the world, from event organizers to say that I'm great to work with and I'm not a prima donna, from audience members whose lives have changed or whose organizations have, made more profit because of what I've shared. And you can put that all together to demonstrate to that person in India that you know enough about their country and enough about the sector that you're talking about, and you've got enough credibility around the world that they should take a risk on flying you in from wherever you are to go there. And if you happen to be from India while I'm talking about this, then it would be in reverse if we're inviting you to South Africa. So you intentionally, strategically connect with people, do good work for them, ask for a recommendation. And that is payment enough if you can then use that for a more profitable opportunity later on. So networking, really powerful there. And, oh, great, people are sharing their LinkedIn links in the in the chat, which is fantastic. I love that. All right, so that was 3 pillars, and our 4th pillar is portfolio. I think this is such an interesting part of the conversation when we look at a portfolio. There's 2 parts. So let me start with the first one. And if you've been paying attention, you'll see that there's 4 pillars. There's always 2 parts because my brain is always go, oh, but what else about something else? So just imagine some depth here. First part of the portfolio is this. The world might have a gig economy, but we don't do gigs. We're professionals. We're not part of the gig economy. We have portfolio careers. So a portfolio career is a career made up of different kinds of work that you do for different people. There could be people who are employed full-time with a single company for 2 years, 5 years, and then they very intentionally leave that company to do something else, to go and learn a new skill, get a new qualification, take a mini retirement, take care of the family for a while, and then they come back to work in a different company to learn different things. And they're not chopping and changing their employers. That's very, very old-fashioned boomer thinking, all right? They are building up a portfolio of evidence about the work that they do, the experiences that they've had. If you think about those professionals at the beginning who are, surfing and climbing and dancing, especially with performance art like dancing and acting, if you're trying to get your next engagement, and somebody, the director wants to know, how much experience do you have? Are you just like really keen amateur that's a great dancer, or do you know what it takes to be a professional dancer and to work these long hours and to sacrifice so much for this? When a person pulls out their portfolio and says, I have been involved in these productions, I have worked with these choreographers, they're showing a portfolio of evidence of their work. If there is a photographer who's trying to get a photography job somewhere, they can show a portfolio of the kind of photography that they do, the skills that they have, the techniques that they've developed. If a model wants to get a modeling job, they can show a portfolio of other photographers taking photographs of them in swimsuits and ball gowns and whatever they do. Again, this is not my field, so how would I know? But they have a portfolio to demonstrate the work that they've done. We need to develop those portfolios as well. We need to, first of all, think of our lives as this career portfolio of different tasks and jobs, and we need to put it together. And then we need that physical portfolio to demonstrate. First part, it's your portfolio career, not a gig economy. And the second part is the portfolio of evidence. I have a folder back here, a white folder, ring binder folder with those plastic sleeves in. And over the years, I have, back when I had more magazines and newspapers rather than online stuff, but if I was featured or if I wrote an article, I would cut it out and put it in there. If I wrote an article somewhere and it was published online, that I would print out the article and I'd just make a note about where it featured and I'd put it in there. It's a physical folder that I could flip through. It has all my old brochures in it about the courses I used to do. Some of them are cringeworthy and I probably won't show you if you come and visit me. But it's there for me to go, oh, gosh, I was young and inexperienced, and here I am getting better, and here I am getting recognized, and here I am taking my career seriously. But it's a physical folder over there. You can do the same thing on your computer. Create a folder on your computer. The first thing you can do is put in all of those personality assessment tests that we do. I've got one, it's got about 12 different personality things. And earlier this year, I was feeling really down in the dumps, and I opened up that folder, and it's just other people's personality things, strengths finder. I can't think of them all, but you know what I'm talking about. There's brain ones, there's personality ones, there's the Enneagram, all that kind of stuff. And I took them all out and I opened them all up and I took tons of notes and I wrote them down old school. And then I put it together in one image, one slide, and I said, this is me. These are my strengths. This is what I'm good at. This is what people want to engage with me about. Now I should lean into that instead of sulking about the other things that might not have worked in my life, but those aren't my strengths. That isn't what makes me me. This is. Okay. So to do that as an exercise, but you can only do that if you start to capture it. So right now, create a folder online, and anything that you do, you're going to pop in there. What else is going to go in there? I'm glad you asked. Very often when we go onto a person's website, a speaker in particular, they've got a page where they show all those little icons of clients that they've worked with. And it's like Coca-Cola. And why do I draw a complete blank when I want to say things like this? You know the companies, okay? All the different the banks and the FMCG, and they have all these little logos on there. The thing about that is, every time you do that, the first thing I do is I look and go, I wonder what kind of WordPress plugin you're using for this, because I keep seeing the template behind it. Then there's all these, it looks very impressive. It can look very colorful, or maybe you got like a, like it's all the same kind of grayscale. But people could put those up there without knowing, like if you put up there that you worked with Coca-Cola, who's going to come back and say, no, you didn't? You're lying. So we need to talk about our clients, but we don't want to brag too much about things that then it just looks a little bit tacky. So find a nice way to be able to demonstrate who you work with. One of those are those LinkedIn recommendations, because you can point to it, say, I did this with this person in this company. But we can talk about our clients. We can put something there. Just try and find a way to make it look tasteful and sincere, rather than just splashing a whole bunch of logos. It's not the logos are not enough to really convince us that you are good, that you're positioned for greatness. Okay. So clients and collabs, and I said collabs because it's really hard to get the whole collaboration into that little image that I created. So collaborations. You can collaborate with other people. You can co-create opportunities. You can find a bunch of speakers who do something similar to you and put on a joint webinar online. You can work with an organization to help them to create some content, to make a change. If your work is involved in change management and you work on a project like that, find a way to capture and demonstrate that on your website, on LinkedIn, in your portfolio, so that you can show that you can work in different places. If you have worked, so if you look on my LinkedIn profile right at the beginning of my experience, because I'm old, so it goes down a little bit. I worked for a bank, an insurance company, a financial brokerage, and a boutique financial firm. And I won an award back then when I was like in my 20s for one of these things. And I can go to a financial company now and say, I can speak your language still. I've got enough insight because I can demonstrate who I've actually physically worked for in the past. So that's the kind of thing you're looking for, is to demonstrate what you're capable of. The second part that you want to put in here is media cover. And can we just pause to say how great my slides are? Because I loved working out how to do this. It was a lot of fun. If you want to know, drop me a message and I'll tell you. So media cover. Have you had articles in magazines, like actual printed magazines on the stand, in newspapers? Have people talked about you? Have you featured anywhere? And if you haven't, find ways to do that. You want to generate a little bit of PR. If you launch a book and there's something interesting about it, there should be something interesting about it, but find an angle and connect it to one of those days that we like, those annual recognition days, or talk about it at a time where your message ties into something that is happening in the news tastefully. Find a way to do that, and find a way to get media to recognize the story that you have and get it out there. If you are new to this, you don't go and try and pitch. I don't even know what the magazines are these days, but you don't go and try and pitch. Somebody name a magazine. Some big magazine. All right. You don't go and pitch something big. You start with your local stuff. In most parts of the world, there's going to be a local community newspaper. Start there. Okay. You might in a few years' time be a little bit embarrassed that, the local thing that is used to kind of, wrap packaging, that your article was in there, or that they talked about you. But you want to start there. You want to know what it feels like to pitch yourself for a PR opportunity. You get some feedback. You go, well, this worked, that didn't work. I wasn't clear enough about the angle, the story. And you get that experience, which means when you go to the next level and the next level, then you're looking at international magazines, you've learned how to communicate while you're pitching your stories. So get that experience. Thank you, B. The New Yorker. Yes, you don't go and try and pitch to the New Yorker. You pitch to the Heidelberg Sun. Okay, that's where I am. Okay, next part is books and articles. We've already spoken about written communication. But books and articles really very important. Your books don't have to be these huge tomes of 40, 50,000 words. They can be, there's nothing wrong if you want to really dive deep into your topic, but producing shorter books, beg your pardon, of 10 to 12,000 words is perfectly acceptable. We have shorter and shorter attention spans. So we need to find ways to communicate more effectively. And if you think of it a keynote that you are really well researched in. You really know your stuff, and you know that behind every minute of your keynote, there's like, 10 hours of content that you could share, but you've crafted a really good keynote. A 10,000 word book is like a keynote. It's because you can probably read it in an hour and a half or so. But behind everything in that is so much more depth. You don't have to give all of that to people at the same time. A colleague, also a futurist colleague, she wrote a book recently, and it's not very long. It is very good, very detailed. And she was working with a company, and they're using this book as, beg your pardon. She's working with this company, and they're using this book as a kind of a platform to grow and develop the leadership team. And the people on this team are supposed to read a chapter each week before she gets there to discuss it. And they don't have the time to read the chapter, which is a problem in this world. We have to find ways to work deeper and not just keep running faster and faster. We shouldn't be doing that. But what she found was she took that chapter and she ran it through. There's a thing on I think Google Play. There's a podcast option, Google Notebook. And they can take some content, and then they generate little podcasts with these two AI voices discussing your content. It's there on Google Notebook, but there's other ways to do it as well. So she plugged in the chapter, they extracted a 5-minute podcast, and people could listen to the podcast. It's kind of like, the Cliff Notes or the cheat notes for the actual book. Find ways to do that, find ways to write shorter books, find ways to simplify your content so that it doesn't have to be that complex. Yes, you can do the big, long stuff as well, but short books and short articles are easy to do. And the more they are out there, the more access people have to your content. All right, the next thing is leadership. The people who are speakers, if you have the audacity to stand on a stage in front of a group of people and to use their time for an hour, and for somebody to have given you that platform to stand on, for you to have that audacity means that you are actually a leader. You actually have something in you to be a leader. So you don't have to just sit back and say, no, this is not for me. I'm not that kind of person. You've got something to share. If there are ways that you can use your leadership to explore new fields, to develop your insight, to practice your methodology, whatever it is you're talking about, find those leadership opportunities. Join your associations, get involved, put your hand up. The more you do that, the more you get that global perspective, you see things at a different level. When I pursued leadership of the Global Speakers Federation, it was because I was ambitious and I really wanted that role. But part of why I wanted to do that was because I knew that growing up, I have a very small perspective of the world. My family doesn't travel. We'd never gone anywhere. And there were so many things that I inherited in terms of opinions and values and perspectives that I wasn't comfortable with, but I didn't know what to do with. And the more that I took leadership opportunities and then pushed myself to find other opportunities, the more I could reassess myself and my values, and then things shifted. So leadership opportunities, please pursue those. Videos, podcasts, etc. Do I even need to talk about that? We should all be doing that. Put those into your portfolio. Create a spreadsheet that has links to all of these so that you can quickly find them. And then awards and recommendations. We talked about LinkedIn at length, but there are lots of different kinds of awards. Some that you'll be nominated for, others that you can put yourself in the place of being nominated. If you have friends and colleagues who know what you're good at, then ask them to nominate you for something. Please be aware of the business model where somebody sends you an email that says, we'd like to feature you on one of the top change makers in Africa for $3,500. So it looks like you've been recognized for your work. It's very easy to like go, well, that would be cool. It'll look nice on my profile, and it might. It will, and people who don't know will be impressed. But I know that I've received that version of that email about 5 times a week, every week. The one recently was, Charlotte, you've been nominated for this great change maker thing. So I replied and said, thank you, but no, thank you. And they came back and said, well, why not? I said, well, because I haven't actually done that work. You're trying to like inflate this. It's not real. Oh, okay. Well, then how about this one instead? And they just switched to a different topic without hearing the fact that I don't want a recognition that I have to pay for. But find ways that there are legitimate awards and recommendations, recognitions that you can get, and ask your colleagues to help you to do that. And to that end, I don't know if the voting is still open, but Ian Hatton has been nominated by Bruce Wade for the Veblen Board Awards for his thought leadership in terms of what is it? Yeah, thought leadership in terms of conscious leadership. That's legitimate. It's awesome. He deserves it. When you find something like that, jump on it, support your friends and colleagues, because that's how they get positioned. And that's how we get positioned by, supporting each other. So there we have a foundation of really good work. 4 pillars: your perspective, your communication, your network, your portfolio. And that means up at the top, you are now professionally positioned for success. That is what we are actually looking for. Okay, just to close off, this song popped into my head this morning. Don't worry, I'm not singing it to you or anything, but I don't know if you remember Janet Jackson. Your career can't be stagnant. You can take a break. You can manage the ebb and flow, all right? You can retire and then come back. That's fine. But you have to be aware of what you're trying to develop with your career. And you can't just say, well, I've done the stuff. Now, where's the fame? Where's the money? You have to work at it. You have to keep moving. You can't stop halfway up the mountain. And the line from Janet Jackson, and I was imagining my career saying to me, what have you done for me lately? So what have you done for yourself lately to position yourself so that people know what you're about, what you can do, and what you can achieve? That's what you're looking at. That's how you stay moving so that your positioning is appropriate for you. There's a lot more, obviously, to all of this. In a moment, I'm going to put into the chat box a link for a survey, an assessment. If you want to do it, it is for the Strategic Moves program that I do. So these 4 pillars are my Strategic Moves pillars. And do the survey, and I'll send you a report which you can immediately use yourself. And if you want to engage further after that, you can. And then there's also a book that Bruce and I wrote together. The title is Calculating Your Speaker Quotient, but we just call it the Kemp Wade formula. But in there are all the different things that you can do, and you can break that formula down so that you can tweak each one of those. And every time you do, you're raising your quotient. You're raising how much more professional you are and how better positioned you will be for success. And we will send Tim a copy of that book as well. All right, folks, thanks very much. We'll certainly catch you up by emails and online. And yeah, I really had fun putting this together and engaging with everybody. So I say goodbye to everyone.